I'm coming to you today from the great city of Chicago and the 214th running of the Chicago Marathon. The tent that we're in today is what they call the Unified Command Center, or the UCC. Every event, regardless of the size, needs to have a good communication program in place. That communication program can really handle both logistics, but also more importantly, and what we're talking about today, is the medical component of what every event needs to deal with. And what we're trying to do with this lecture and also the other videos that we're presenting to you from this location is to make sure that you understand that each of these programs are scalable. It doesn't have to be the size of a Chicago or a Boston or New York marathon to really put together a good communication programs. So here are the keys that you need to consider either as a race director or medical director in putting together an effective medical communications program. One, obviously, it starts with your medical plan. Where are you going to have your medical support teams from the start to the course to the finish line? And do those teams have a means to communicate back to a central location to report any types of issues that may arise that are medical or even logistical in nature? So it's important that the communication program mirrors your operations and medical plan for your event. So along with that, what are the types of communication devices you need? We strongly suggest that a cell phone system is not your primary means of communication. Realistically, you should start with some type of either a ham radio setup or an amateur ham radio program to support your event, or maybe even some digital types of radios that can be used from, again, start to finish that would cover a wide range of your event. That you may have medical radios at a lot of your medical stations, but you also need to consider having communications of some type in between those medical stations so that someone can see something happen and report it. So as I mentioned earlier, with that, the Unified Command Center here in Chicago, and I think every event really needs to consider having some facility, as small as it may be, that communication can flow into. Again, not only just the medical communication side, but the logistics side of what goes on with the event, but also an effective tie-in with your public safety partners, your fire, police, EMS, so that there are coordinated responses to anything that may happen along the course and at the finish line. All right, now that we've gone over the locations of where you need to have your communications and maybe some of the types of medical communication devices that you may need for your event, the question is what type of communications are important? Again, we're talking at the UCC in Chicago Marathon, and as you can see behind me, there are a number of setups and locations for a multitude of agencies and individuals to be here to take in information, evaluate it, and get it back out. You might not have that ability to have something of this size, but you do need to have something. And it may be one or two people that you designate as your medical communications program director. That should not be your medical director. So again, types of information that you're going to need to come in. Obviously, having an understanding of medical transports that are happening on the course. It's vital for you as the medical and race director to know how many people are going to the hospital and at what rate. So again, your medical communications to start, course, and finish need to communicate that so you can kind of evaluate how the day is going medically and how many transports are taking place. Then the more important thing is to make sure that you're communicating that to the appropriate family members and connecting the runner and the family member together. Very important aspect of communications and what we try to do. Then the other piece is really logistical in the sense that if the medical tents, particularly in the course, are getting overrun, they're missing certain pieces of equipment, they're running out of supplies, those types of lesser priority communications need to take place, and again, to go into a central command. And again, you can hear the communications is already going on in this tent. But again, you have to have an effective program to make that happen. And one of the more important things is whichever program you choose, whether it be ham radios, digital radios, and then of course at the least cell phones, is to make sure that they are operational well before the event. Test those devices and make sure that geographically they can go from start to finish and work well with no interference. If your communication program goes down for whatever reason, your effectiveness as far as providing a safe event is greatly diminished.